Hey everyone, I'm Lira, and I'm a sophomore in college. Between classes, studying, work, and trying to have some kind of social life, I thought I had college life figured out. Today, I want to tell you a story that completely changed how I think about money and personal finance. It started with something I thought was boring: car insurance. Honestly, I used to think car insurance was just another bill. Pay it every month, keep the insurance card in the car, never think about it again. That was basically my plan. I got my first car when I started college. Nothing fancy at all. It had a lot of miles, weird sounds, and the radio worked only when it felt like working. But I loved it because it gave me freedom. I could drive to class, go to work, grab food with friends, and stop depending on rides from other people. Then I needed insurance, and I remember thinking, cheapest option, please. I wasn't thinking about coverage. I wasn't thinking about risk. I wasn't thinking about lawsuits or medical bills. I just wanted a lower monthly payment. I told myself, what are the chances something actually happens? Well, it turns out that one random afternoon completely changed my understanding of car insurance. And trust me, I learned that lesson the hard way. So one afternoon, I was driving back from campus after a really long day. I had classes earlier, then work, and my brain felt completely exhausted. You know those days where you feel like you're physically there, but mentally you're operating at about 10%? That was me. Traffic was moving slowly. Cars were stopping and going, nothing unusual. I remember glancing at the clock and thinking about all the things I still had to do that night. Homework, laundry, a quiz, dinner. And then I looked away for just a second. Just 1 second. When I looked back up, the car in front of me had stopped. I slammed on the brakes, but it was too late. Boom! I rear-ended the car in front of me. Everything suddenly became quiet. My heart started racing. I remember thinking, no, 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 no. I just sat there staring at the steering wheel. Then I got out of my car, and that's when I saw something that made my stomach drop even more. The car I hit was expensive, very expensive. The back bumper looked damaged, part of the rear panel was dented, and I immediately started thinking, please tell me this isn't going to cost thousands of dollars. Then I realized something worse. The other driver was holding their neck and saying they felt pain. And suddenly this wasn't just about car damage anymore. Now I started thinking, wait, what happens if someone gets hurt? That was the moment I realized I had absolutely no idea what my car insurance actually covered. A few minutes later, the police arrived. They asked both of us what happened. I explained that traffic stopped suddenly, and I looked away for a moment. Then the officer looked at me and said something that immediately made me nervous. He explained that when you rear-end another car, the driver behind is usually considered at fault. And in this case, that driver was me. I remember thinking, okay, I messed up. Then we exchanged insurance information. I pulled out my insurance card and suddenly realized something kind of embarrassing. I barely knew what was on it. I knew the company name. I knew I paid the bill every month. That was about it. Later that night, I filed an insurance claim, and I learned something important. A claim is basically a request asking your insurance company to help cover a loss after something happens. Then the representative started asking questions. Do you have collision coverage? What are your liability limits? What's your deductible? I remember sitting there thinking, wait, what deductible? I had heard the word before, but I honestly never paid attention. Then she explained it. A deductible is the amount you pay out of your own pocket before insurance starts paying for certain covered losses. And suddenly, I realized something. Maybe choosing the cheapest policy without understanding it wasn't such a great strategy after all. The next few days felt stressful. I kept checking my phone and email waiting for updates. Then the repair estimates started arriving. First, my car. The front bumper was damaged. The hood had shifted. Parts underneath also needed repairs. The estimate was around $4,000. Then I learned something important. Collision coverage helps pay for damage to your own car after an accident, even if the accident is your fault. I remember thinking, okay, maybe I'm safe. Then the insurance representative asked me something. What is your deductible? Mine was $500. Then she explained it. Because my repair bill was $4,000, I had to pay the first $500 myself. After that, insurance would pay the remaining covered amount. So I wasn't getting a free repair. I still had to share part of the cost. That was the whole idea behind a deductible. Usually, choosing a higher deductible can lower your monthly premium, but if something happens, you need to be ready to pay more out of pocket. Then I thought, $500 hurts. But what I learned next made $500 suddenly feel very small, because I still had not seen the bill for the other car. A few days later, I found out more about the other driver's damages, and suddenly my little $500 deductible didn't seem so scary anymore. The car I hit was expensive, really expensive. The repairs weren't just a scratched bumper. There were sensors, cameras, and electronic parts hidden behind the bumper. The repair estimate was over $15,000. Then there was something else. The driver went to the doctor because of neck pain after the accident. There were medical evaluations, treatment costs, and additional expenses. And that was when I learned about liability coverage. Liability coverage helps pay for injuries or property damage that you cause to other people. So unlike collision coverage, which helped repair my own car, liability coverage protects me when I cause damage to someone else. Then the insurance representative started talking about policy limits, and I remember thinking, oh no. Because I had picked lower limits to save money every month. I never asked myself one question: what if the damages are larger than my coverage? I was about to learn the answer, and trust me, I really wish I had learned it before the accident. Then I got a phone call from my insurance company, and I could tell immediately this was not going to be good news. The representative explained that my liability coverage had limits. Insurance policies don't promise unlimited payments. They only pay up to the maximum amount written in your policy. That maximum amount is called the policy limit. Then reality hit me. The damages to the other car were high, the medical expenses were growing, and the total amount was getting dangerously close to my coverage limit. I remember sitting there thinking, wait, what happens if the costs go above my limit? Then I got my answer. If damages go beyond your policy limit, you may become personally responsible for the remaining amount. Personally responsible. I hated those words, because suddenly I wasn't thinking about a car accident anymore. I was thinking about my savings, my future income, my financial future. And then things became even more stressful, because I received notice that I was being sued. At that moment I thought, my life is over. Of course it wasn't over, but it definitely felt that way. I spent days feeling stressed. I kept replaying the accident in my head. I kept asking myself, why did I choose the cheapest policy without understanding it? Eventually, I learned something important. Insurance is not really about protecting your car, it's about protecting your finances. It's about protecting yourself from a financial disaster. My insurance company handled lawyers and negotiations for covered claims, and eventually, a settlement was reached. I still had costs and stress to deal with, but without insurance, the situation could have been much worse. I also learned about umbrella liability insurance. An umbrella policy can provide extra liability protection above your normal auto or home policy limits. Back when I first bought insurance, I thought, why would anyone need extra coverage? Now I understood, because accidents don't ask whether you're a college student. They don't ask whether you're on a budget. And they definitely don't ask whether you're financially ready. I finally understood something. A low monthly premium does not always mean lower financial risk. Looking back now, I can finally smile about the whole experience. Not because the accident was fun. Trust me, it definitely was not. But because I learned something that probably saved me from making much bigger mistakes in the future. I reviewed my insurance policy. I increased my liability coverage. I actually learned what my deductible was. I started paying attention to policy limits, and I stopped asking only, how much does this cost per month? I started asking, what exactly am I paying for? Today, my car is repaired. Life went back to normal. Classes still exist, homework still exists, coffee still exists, and thankfully everyone involved in the accident recovered. So if there is one thing I want you to remember from my story, it is this. Car insurance is not just another monthly bill. It is a tool that transfers financial risk and protects you from losses that could completely change your future. But if something happens, you will be very glad it is there. Thanks for spending time with me today. I'm Lira, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everyone.